Hello. Today I want to talk to you guys about our new unit, Unit 3. It's informative and explanatory writing. And I'm kind of doing this video on a whim because I was trying to create slides to explain something and I realized it's just going to work better to do it on video. So you'll have to excuse me. I had a long day today. Not looking my best. But anyway, I want to talk to you guys about Essential Standard 7.7.4.4. And I just really feel like there needs to be something that kind of explains what this essential standard means. And so I'm hoping to make that clearer for you in this video. So the standard says that we need to produce clear and coherent writing. Clear and coherent. Clear and coherent. Clear and coherent mean that the words that we write, the sentences that we create, the paragraphs that we design, the essays we produce, all of that needs to make sense. We need to choose words that communicate the message that we mean to communicate, the message that we want to communicate, all right? And so that's the beginning part. We need to be able to create or produce writing that is getting across the message that we want to communicate, all right? And along with that, the messages that we create, the essays we write, the paragraphs we design, all of that has to have development that is appropriate to the task, purpose, and audience. So development means that the way that we create our essay from top to bottom, from introduction to conclusion, needs to be written in a logical way that develops the way that it should according to the task. So if the directions are to explain something, we need to explain, not retell or summarize or convince or persuade, okay? If the purpose of our essay is to explain something and we start persuading instead, then we have now done something that is not appropriate to the task or the purpose, okay? And then we also need to consider our audience. So if our audience is our teacher, or if the audience is your classmates, you're going to write differently than you would on your Snapchat story or on an Instagram post. The type of writing that we're doing in ELA is an academic writing. This means that our work needs to be polished, it needs to be sophisticated, it needs to be word choices that represent who you are as a learner, not who you are as a kid beatboxing on the side of the street. I don't know. So that's what audience means, all right? So when we look at this now from the beginning, we know what produce clear and coherent writing means. We need to create essays that make the message clear and that are developed or that progress from beginning to end in the right way. And then organization, when we organize an essay, people expect to see things in certain places. And so we need to make sure that our essays are organized. And I'll show you an illustration for that in just a moment. And then the style of writing has a lot to do with the way that we write. It's hard to explain, I guess. I might have to do another mini lesson on style. But when I think about style, I think about the type of kind of like formality with audience. Okay, so if you're writing to a teacher, you're going to write differently than you would to a fourth grader. Okay, so you're going to use shorter sentences for a first grader than you would for your teacher. You're going to have less complexity and that sort of thing. You also might use vocabulary words that are different and that sort of thing. So style has a lot to do with word choices and the sentence structures that you use and that sort of thing. We'll talk more about that one later. Okay, so here's the other thing I really wanted to show you. I don't know how many of you guys play football or how many of you have ever followed a recipe before to cook a meal, or how many of you have been to a restaurant and sat down and looked at a menu. Well, I just found like 3 examples. Okay, so here's an example of a playbook for a football team. And I don't play football. I've played in the backyard when I was growing up, but I've never like followed plays before. So for me, this is like gibberish. Like I don't really know what this is communicating at all. But for someone who plays football regularly, you probably would know how to read this. You would know what the expectations are here, okay? Same thing with a recipe. If you've never followed a recipe before, this might not be a format that makes a whole lot of sense to you right away. But if you are familiar with recipes, you know that the ingredients are always on the left, the directions are on the right. It tells you specific information about cook time and how many people it serves and all that kind of stuff, right? And then on the menu over on the right-hand side, you typically are going to see the name of the restaurant at the top. And then you're going to see food that's listed by categories like burgers, hot dogs, drinks. It could be salads, appetizers, desserts. There could be different categories of foods. And then there's the list underneath with the price next to it. Okay, so that's what you normally would see. Well, what would happen if you saw one of these instead? If your football coach handed you this as the next play, you would not understand this. It might have all the same parts. The green color might be the same. The lines exist, but they're in the wrong places. The G, the 30, the 10, the 20, the numbers are all there, but they're in the wrong places. The X's and the O's and the arrows, all the pieces of the previous playbook, I'll show you that again, they're all there, but they're in places that are strange for someone to see, okay? Same thing with this recipe. The ingredients are listed upside down and in the wrong spot. And the directions, they're there, but the words are all mixed together. Mix it all together, cook it, serve immediately. I know what it says because I typed it, but if the words are all scrambled together and the sentences don't really make sense, or it's written as a run-on, that creates confusion for our reader, right? And then this menu, how bizarre would it be to walk into a restaurant, sit down, and have the server hand this menu to you, and the foods are separated by the complexity that it takes for the chef to make it. Here are the foods that are hard to make, difficult to make. Here are the foods that are easy to make. Why would a restaurant ever do that? I could see that maybe for the chef having that list, but not for the customers. That would be very strange. That would be unexpected. So your goal with this unit is to really start to understand the structure of an essay and why it's structured the way that it is. When you understand the structure, it's easier to buy into doing it the right way. We don't want your college professor someday to pick up your essay and to have it look like one of these. We want the parts to be where they're supposed to be so that you can communicate the message that you need to communicate in the most effective way. I hope that makes sense. And if you have any questions, talk to me after class or during work time. Thanks.